Hey, I'm James. Welcome to Alternate Sides, a podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship. This week, we close out the podcast's first decade of movies, and we couldn't have picked a better one for the job. It's Ingmar Bergman's masterpiece of family relationships, Fanny and Alexander. As you'll hear, it's a movie that has everything. Now, I realize we don't really go into what the movie is about, so I'll give you a quick recap here. It's a family, the Ekdahl family, and there are 3 generations. The grandmother, 3 sons, and then 2 grandchildren, Fanny and Alexander. Alexander's probably about 12, Fanny's about 9. The basic arc of the film is that Fanny and Alexander's father, one of the 3 brothers, dies, and their mother quickly, hastily, rashly remarries a bishop who's a son of a bitch. Also in this episode, we talk about wind chimes, bookstore etiquette, and the board game Gloomhaven. Here we go.
Ding, 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 ding.
Whoa!
Hang on, let me plug in. Don't say anything good. No fear of that. Hang on, let me see if this works.
I kind of feel like I want to get right into the movie.
Say something?
Let's start with this. So it's Fanny and Alexander, Ingmar Bergman's swan song, Schwanengesang. And
Schwanengesang, I love it. Yeah. Why is a swan song a swan song? Where does that come from?
I believe that the mute swan only sings when it's in its demise or something or other like that.
Oh, really? So the mute song sings, and that means it's the end?
Well, I don't know.
That's good.
A swan song. Let's see. It refers to an ancient belief that swans sing a beautiful song just before their death, since they have been silent for most of their lifetime.
That's lovely.
Basis has been long debated, had become proverbial in ancient Greece.
Wow.
So it's been a long time. Anyway, Ingmar Bergman's farewell to cinema, and you're much more of an expert on Bergman than I am, but I feel like you really could write a book about this movie. There are so many layers and interesting little avenues of thought and of ideas that come up. But in a very basic sense, why is it called Fanny and Alexander? Why isn't it called like the Ekdahls, you know? I'm answering my own question because Alexander is sort of the consciousness that kind of pervades the movie and the blur between reality and fantasy and play and acting and all these puppets, all these different modes of performance and everything.
Alexander is the lens through which the whole movie exists. It begins with him, it ends with him, and the central conflicts, whether it's the father's death or the stepfather's cruelty or the introduction to the magical world, whatever, it's all through Alexander. All the experiences are through Alexander.
Do you like the movie?
Do I like the movie? This is one of the great fucking movies ever made. I love this movie. I'd never seen the 5 and a bit hour version that we watched. So I'm very pleased to have seen it because I'd seen the 3 hour whatever version several times.
The short version at only 3 hours long.
A brisk 188 minutes. But it is true that it's better at 5 hours. And Bergman, I think, was always in favor of the long version.
And this is broken up into acts. And when I saw the title for Act 5, Demons, I just thought, oh God, no.
I remember I dragged my family, because it is also a Christmas film in a sense.
Like Die Hard.
Like Die Hard. There was one Christmas when I was back in London and they were playing this like some sort of, a restored print or whatever, the 3 hour version. And I dragged my parents and my sister, like a whole bunch of us. I got us all tickets and we went and watched it. And I remember on the drive back, everyone being like, well, okay, it was good, but what is it that you love about this movie? And they hadn't quite plugged into what to me is its greatness, which is that it's got everything. Like, there's nothing in the world, really, that's not in this movie. It's family, it's religion, it's art, it's generations, It's magic and mystery and cruelty
It's
and
funny.
kindness. It's funny. It's sad. It's scary. It's just. To me, it's one of the great works of art of the 20th century. And it's also crazy that Bergman decides, I'm tired. I'm getting up there in age, and I'm gonna stop making movies. And what I'll do is I'll put like everything into this last one, and I'll fucking nail it. And he continued to work. He continued to write. He even made a couple of TV movies, and even maybe Saraband is a feature, I guess, at the end. And he lived for another 20 something years after this. But it's not like when you think about the late style, right? Usually there's a distillation. Usually they've managed to bring everything down to it's sort of, this is like the maximalist approach to the late style. It's like he ended with his great symphony rather than with the string quartet, right? He ends with this massive panorama. It's a send-off. It's a send-off of Bergman. Hang on one sec.
What's the situation with your street sweeper and all that?
Do you know, it's funny. I'm actually, if I'm honest, I'm on the wrong side of the road. So I think Margie didn't know I was in it. So she moved it yesterday. So I'm good today. I'm just sitting here just to sit here and chat with you. I don't need to be sitting here today.
There's no way to say this without sounding pretentious, but I remember when I read Ulysses in graduate school, which was like over the course of a term. So it was like 12 weeks of really going deep. A similar thing, all of human experience is captured in this one work of art. And it's really just mind-boggling and great and monumental,
Yeah.
in a similar kind of way.
Yeah.
I also felt that way about Dante, but the Commedia.
But well, I mean, look, this is the thing. To me, Bergman is no less than Ibsen and Strindberg and Chekhov. Like, his writing is just that good. And his insights and what he does with this family, it's just so fucking good. I don't know how he did it. He was special. And it's like, the thing is, like, Bergman, he went through many phases. Like, it's weird to come to this movie and like look at this movie, like I said, because it's the end movie in a way, and it's a summation. It's a summation not of his movies. His other movies aren't like this. It's sort of it's the most personal of his films.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that much Bergman, but when I think of like Persona or of Seventh Seal, they are very stark and they feel very not really cold, but they have that like distilled
Scandinavian
minimal Scandinavian quality. And this is so lush and so warm and so full of just like, even visually, so full of like velvet and fabrics and dresses and all of that stuff. I have to say, I'm amazed that they must have had houses burned down all the time, because
all those candles.
There are candles everywhere, and the Christmas tree is actually got candles in it, and all the chandeliers and everything. I mean, it seems like once a week a house in the neighborhood must have burned down.
This is the other thing. It's become like a running gag that I don't like period films as a rule. Me and Alex used to say, horses' hooves on cobblestones, and I'm out. Like, the moment I hear that sound, I don't want that fucking, Sense and Sensibility. I'm terribly sorry. Oh, goodness. A cup of tea. Fuck off. I don't want any of that.
Like a nice Jane Austen or Dickens.
I despise those things. I really can't stand them. And to me, it's funny, like, this movie is 100% that. And yet, because it's not shit, because it's not just operating in tropes, the human element is so well done and so, like, profound. Like, each of the characters, even the bishop, who is as close to like a monster as you can make, even the bishop at the end, you see that he has this moment of saying, I could never imagine that people would hate me. I always imagined that people liked me. And even that, he's even able to give you this glimpse into the monster. he turns every character over, and they're all three-dimensional. They're all real people.
But also in that scene where he says to Emily, the actress, you once said that you had whatever 1,000 masks or whatever you were always changing between. I only have one mask, and it's branded to my face.
God, yeah, exactly.
There are many incredible moments. The scene after Oscar dies, where you just hear her screaming.
Yeah, and then you just see it through the crack in the door, and she's pacing.
Yeah, the door is cracked open, and you just hear the screaming. I mean, I'm like getting chills just thinking about it. So raw, just so.
That's not a period film, and this is the thing that period costume dramas always gloss over this. There isn't a real moment in them, and in this there is. That, like you say, that raw quality is always smoothed out by the costumes and the language and the refinery of it. But it's not here. He's able to give you that. He's able to show you the grand Christmas and everything else, but he's able to also show you a moment, like the moment when Carl is like tortured when he says, "How do you become second rate?" And he's like twisting his own face. Like, he's like
digging his fingers into his eyeballs.
He's so mad. He's so mad at himself and his life and how much it sucks. That's something you don't get that is from the Bergman school. That is in all the movies. That goes back to Winter Light. You see the agony of people when he's like, you're smelling, like he says to his wife, that you smell. Are you rotting? And she says, "No, I don't smell. You're just having olfactory hallucinations." Like, she's just so convinced that she's not. But that idea of, are you rotting? Like, no one in a period drama says to their wife, "Are you rotting?" That's Bergman. And so what about the moment? So this is something I thought this moment would be resolved in the 5 and a bit hour version, because I was always confused by it. But now I realize that it's not. The moment when Herr Jacobi goes to save the children.
So I rewatched that scene because one, it's so well done and so incredible. And also I was like, what just happened? Yeah. Okay, so the bishop is basically holding Emily and the 2 children, Fanny and Alexander, prisoner. And then Jacobi, the family friend, the Jewish merchant, comes over and buys this chest and then is going to get the kids into the chest and have it sneak them out.
Right.
I almost turned it off. I was so nervous. This is why I can't watch the movies. He goes into the house and he's going to put the kids in there. And I really did almost get up and walk away because it was I couldn't stand the idea that he was going to be found out, that it might not come off,
Yeah.
And it seems like he gets them in the chest, and then it seems like everything's going to go well. And then the bishop is like, "Have a seat with me," on top of the chest.
Yeah.
And they're looking at this. And then the bishop loses his mind and basically figures out that something's going on. There's some scheme. And then the crazy sister comes in and says, no, I've got the key to the nursery. And they go bounding upstairs. And then that's the moment, right, where Jacobi stands up and screams. And suddenly there's this flooded with light. And then you cut upstairs and the bishop runs into the nursery and there are the kids. We've just seen them get into this chest on the ground floor. And there they are in the attic. And then you go back downstairs and Jacobi is on the floor. Picks himself up, and then the plan proceeds. And I think he basically calls in a favor from God. I think he basically creates this illusion somehow, but he doesn't say Lord help me. Yeah, he conjures just by this scream, and then there's this flash of light. And the second time I watched it, I noticed when you cut upstairs, the camera's on the floor and it's empty.
Right.
And then you pan up and you see the bishop and the sister run in. And then when you come back down, the kids are there. And the bishop starts to approach them and Emily screams out, "Don't touch them."
Right, because they're not real.
Yeah, so that is just, what the hell? But the idea that you could just do that in a movie.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's the ballsiness. See, if I proposed that to you, you'd probably be like, can we do? I don't think we can do that. You can't just conjure them.
But you say that there are rules for these things. You can't just go in and set up a world and then break the rules of the world. But I guess in the beginning you've had even in like the opening scene, Alexander wandering around the empty house and like the statue starts to like move and come to life a little bit.
Yeah, the magic is a part of it, and we're going to get to the magic. That's the thing, that Jacobi is the house of the magicians. You're going to get to when you get later in that house with Ismail, and like, does Alexander cause the bishop's death?
Right. And yeah, that character Ishmael, who's played by a woman, who's like
It's
a male
amazing.
character but played by a woman, who like takes his shirt off,
It's very
Alexander's shirt
interesting.
off, and then puts the arms around, and then I was very uncomfortable in that scene. I didn't like
That's
that.
a great
That was a little
scene.
too.
And meanwhile, the aunt, Alma or whatever, is burning in flames. That's incredible.
I mean, it's sort of like the end of Being There, where suddenly Chauncey walks out onto the
You're
water.
right.
It's just like a
Right.
beautiful moment of like breaking the rules in a way that feels authentic somehow, and that doesn't shatter the illusion, you know?
And that's something like you don't get, I think in the 3-hour version, you do not get a lot of the magic stuff. So it doesn't feel as much a part of it. I think that's always why it was more confusing in that short version, is that a lot of that stuff inevitably got pulled back. Like you don't get the long Erland Josephson story about the guy walking through the parched earth, which is fantastic. You don't get that in the shorter version.
But it's probably like, I didn't time it, but like 5 or 6 minutes of just almost direct to camera telling a story. Where like when Oscar is doing Hamlet, it's like the whole scene. You're just like watching 7 minutes of Hamlet in the middle of Hamlet rehearsal. In the middle
Hamlet
of
rehearsal, and they're terrible. The funny thing is that they're terrible at it. That's what I love as well, that he makes them really bad. And then the moment that Oscar falls down, he said, am I going to die now? Do I die now? Does he say? And so, like, there's a vulnerability to him immediately. And the whole style of his, like being a human versus being the actor who plays the ghost in 1907 is a radically different thing.
Yeah.
And that style, it's brilliant. Like, obviously you could have had them play it much more subtly. That scene, I mean, the scene on his deathbed when Emily puts her head on his, and he talks, you know, and he said, now I could play the ghost now.
Oh God.
It's amazing. Ingmar was really one of the all-time greats. And I think people, like, you're right, people have this rightly, because some of the movies like Winterlight and The Silence and Persona and Seven Seal, they are quite like, there's a high contrast, black and white, stark. They're short, they're like chamber pieces in a way. And their concern is God's silence and our, you know, struggle with meaning in our existence, and the ways in which people are cruel to each other. There is all of that, and they are. But I always thought, and I maintain, that his movies are not boring at all.
Yeah,
they're not even slow. They're like diamonds. They're hard. But there's a real fucking. But he pushes it further and further, and he gets to the truth between people.
What is this really like?
Yeah, that's the Mike Nichols thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What does this really look like?
Yeah, it looks like a woman screaming in the middle of the night after her husband has died.
Exactly.
It doesn't look like, Mr. Darcy,
Yes, I'm so sorry for your loss.
It's an amazing contrast when you go from this lush, beautiful, enormous house, the Ekdal house at Christmas time, to the bishop's like cold, austere. They're like slurping like gruel for breakfast, and it's silent, and they're all wearing black or whatever. I mean, it really is. Just think about that as a child going into that world. I was amazed, you know, as somebody who grew up as a church musician and around churches a lot, and then I'll put it this way, drifted away from that. that whole thing, that Christianity as suffering, the weird like pleasure in deprivation and of humiliation in a way as devotion, is so weird and so strong in this movie. It's really very weird religion when you get to the heart of it.
Well, but do you get the sense that the bishop is, I get the sense that the bishop is fucked up, not because of just his religion. Like, clearly some stuff has gone on with like his wife and children have died. He lives with his.
But he does believe. He does. I mean, he may be a hypocrite and owe money, and he may covet Emily and all that sort of thing. But he does seem to believe in the God he's worshiping, and in the idea that you will be punished if you're not. But I think he sort of wants to be punished in a weird.
Yeah,
That's the sort of self-flagellation that I find so puzzling.
But I think it's personal. If he weren't a bishop, he'd still be the son of a bitch.
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah.
He doesn't become that way because of his religion. Religion is just like the place where he can act out this himself, a place of being, whatever. And also he's vain. He's the bishop, and he goes in the horse and carriage, and people on the fruit stalls like bow as he passes by.
Yeah. Or even just when he shows up after Oscar has died, he's such a twat. Like you immediately know, oh God, this guy is trouble. And the way he his first chat with Alexander, when he pokes him on the head, he's so mean. Like you can just see this is not going to go well. Like this is going to be bad. The ghosts though are very well handled. I love. My favorite is when Oscar is at the piano, and he just turns to the dad, and there's just a slow push on his face. It's so beautiful because he seems so sad at having had to leave and not feeling he's not able to rest yet.
He's in the white linen suit, just sitting at the piano, and he's not. Hamlet figures large in this movie. He's not the ghost of the king who's angry, and he does have this sort of forlorn quality about him.
But if there is a thing though, and now that you say that, the movie, although it has a lot of Hamlet echoes, it's more like The Tempest in that it's the last thing and it's all about magic. There's a weird, I wonder if they were thinking about that. He does mention Caliban as well. The priest, the bishop says, you're a Caliban. But that's the only version I can see that is parallel, because that's a weird ending too. That's a weird way to go out. The Tempest was not, again, not a small chamber piece, but a total left turn. In fact, the last couple, was Winter's Tale was a late one as well? Yeah, the late ones are kind of insane all of a sudden. The other thing is, he probably didn't know, Shakespeare probably didn't know The Tempest was his last, did he?
He wrote some other things. There's the Two Noble Kinsmen or whatever. He did some collaborations, a couple of...
after The Tempest?
I believe so. You're not one of these Oxfordians, are you?
No, I don't care. If the writing is good, let's call him William Shakespeare. Let's not worry too much about it.
Speaking of families and children, I was in the local bookstore last week, and there was a woman, and it seemed like it must have been like the nanny babysitter and this child. And the child was a little girl, maybe 2 or 3. And then the nanny person was in her early 20s, I would say, college age. And she was so annoying. This nanny was just talking to the kid loudly, to like baby talk and talking, and that thing that people do that I'm guilty of too when I had small children, of talking to the child or talking to your pet, your dog, as though it can understand adult conversation or whatever. I can't really remember exactly what she said, but I almost left. I became that dude. I was that asshole who was in the movie theater, turning around and glaring at the people behind me because they
Excuse me.
Excuse me. In the theater.
We're trying to listen.
I'm to the bookstore. I just want it to be quiet. I don't care. I guess the thing was this idea that nobody cares about your kid the way that you do. I'm definitely cutting this out because it makes me into an asshole, but it's so irritating.
Our downstairs neighbors, not recently, maybe a month or 2 ago, they've put up wind chimes. And I don't know what to do. It's driving me crazy. At night, the windows are open because it's hot, and it's just ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, what is this? Why do we all have to listen to this?
Downstairs neighbors?
Yeah, in the garden. So it just comes through the window or the doors or whatever. And it's I don't understand why we should all listen to this strange, random, tinkling metal sound.
Well, I'm sure they don't think of it as affecting anyone else,
It's so annoying. No, it just...
Maybe you bang away on your Steinway Baby Grand after dinner.
Yes, that's music. That's music.
The wind chime is also music.
The wind chime is not music. Wind chime is just annoying. Ding, 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 ding.
You've got to slip a note under their door.
I was thinking last night, as I was trying to sleep and I was starting to compose letters. Like, I was like, maybe I could say that I'm like mentally ill somehow, and that this is really. I was like, how can I make this so that it's not about them, but it's about me? I suffer from,
We just asked them to take it down at night. I mean, I know that's annoying, but like,
no one's going to do that every two. It's big. It's a big fucker. It's not like one
reach down with a broom and
exactly. I was thinking, could I just sabotage it somehow?
They'll just get another bigger one.
Oh God.
Chandelier size.
It's so annoying.
I think you should be able to say that's not on, mate.
Excuse me, could you please remove your wind chime? It's really bothering me. I mean, you can't. I can't.
This is exactly the kind of thing that would drive me crazy, and that Molly would be like, "You're an idiot, and you're an insane."
No, Margie doesn't. Margie and Wanda don't hear it, and I hear nothing. I hear nothing but
crazy. It would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Ding, 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 all day, all fucking day and night.
I actually took down a wind chime at my mother's house for this reason. I don't need to hear that.
It's annoying. Who derives any pleasure from this? Who thought this was a good idea? I don't even understand. Why would anyone like that sound? Either you're in the lucky camp of not hearing it, or you're annoyed by it. But no one's listening to it and going, "Ah, what wonderful, sweet sounds of metal clanking on metal."
Oh, they're metal? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Presumably the neighbor is enjoying it.
I don't think they are. They're not there.
Gone for the summer. That's the beautiful thing.
They're not here.
Yeah,
they're
not even
here.
there. Yeah.
They're not here. They aren't here. They haven't been here for weeks. Maybe I could just slip down into the garden and fucking butcher the thing.
Yeah.
Cats run away with it.
Area man paralyzed after falling from deck.
Impaled by wind chime. Oh God.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah, go for it. Get that on social media. I'd love to see that.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I don't get it. Oh, it's 9:49. What time? We got to move to 1984.
1983, mate. 1983.
Oh, this was 82?
Yeah.
So wait, was that number 10?
This was our 10th. Yeah,
wow,
this was number 10. Yeah.
Oh, I finally got to a great movie.
So 1983, we are really getting into movies.
I gotta get this.
Yeah.
Let me just send the message. 1 second. Okay.
Just the do not disturb function on your phone there.
I know, but they don't know what I'm doing.
All right, 1983. We're really getting into the movies now that like I remember the ones that I have seen. I remember seeing a few times and like that loomed large in my childhood. Here's some movies I have seen. 1983. Return of the Jedi. War Games.
War Games, yeah.
Trading Places.
Oh yeah, classic.
Great Philly movie, Trading Places. Risky Business. Flashdance. Terms of Endearment.
Was Risky Business the first Tom Cruise movie? Or was it just the first one that...
Was he in All the Right Moves? Was that Tom Cruise?
That sounds right.
I think that was like the same year, but it might have been Taps, might have been his first movie, which I think is in 1981. Maybe.
So this is 83, and now 40 years later, amazing. He's still doing it. He's the only movie star.
Yeah. Sudden Impact, the last Dirty Harry movie, I think, which I could probably quote to you right now. I watched that a lot on VHS.
Your dad liked Dirty Harry, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
There's something about my dad who, it's been 28 years since he died. He also liked Death Wish, the Charles Bronson movie. And he was a little bit like, there's a sort of there's a kind of a choose your own adventure or sliding doors, like, he died in 1994, and there's definitely in the multiverse a version of my dad that's like this QAnon prepper militia vigilante guy, which thank God we didn't go down that path. But there's also the secondhand bookshop owner in Vermont version, which is how I like to imagine him having been. But
right.
A Christmas Story was 1983. It's a movie that I never really figured in my childhood, but was the Christmas movie for Molly and her family.
I don't think I ever saw that.
High Road to China, which was like kind of a weird sort of quasi Indiana Jones knockoff, I almost want to say, with Tom Selleck. I saw that in the theater, I remember.
I've never heard of that movie.
How about this one? Have you heard of this? The King of Comedy.
I have heard of that. Often mispronounced, often misspelled. Pubkin.
Let me show you my pride and joy.
You can have
and
that.
then weird weird James Bond double feature. It's the year of both Octopussy with Roger Moore and Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery.
That's so weird. I saw both of those in the cinema. Yeah, that was weird. Why did they do two?
I think it had to do with the rights for like Thunderball, something, the Broccoli's and United Artists or whatever it was. And I think that the rights to the Thunderball script or movie, I guess, or the novel were outside of because Never Say Never Again, I think, is basically a remake of Thunderball. But I loved that movie, and I'm sure it's terrible. Never Say Never Again. It's like the knockoff James Bond with Sean Connery. 1983, also a year of like one of these weird moments where 3D was a thing again.
Oh yeah.
So it was like Jaws 3, which I think was
Jaws
3D.
3D, right? Yeah, Jaws 3D.
Amityville 3D was that year. And a movie I also saw in the theater, Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone.
Again, I've never heard it. I think you're making some of these up, but okay.
No. I have a television upstairs, a 3D television that I bought 10 or 15 years ago.
Have you ever used the 3D mode?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And unless it works without the glasses, it doesn't work.
All right, here we go. Movies from 1983 I haven't seen. There are a couple of doozies in here.
Okay.
Silkwood.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. Meryl Streep.
The Outsiders. De Palma movie with a big cast. I don't remember who's in that. Macchio, C. Thomas Howell. I think Tom Cruise is in that too, I think.
I don't think I know this movie. I'm not a big De Palma fan.
No. Did I say De Palma? No. It's Coppola. Sorry.
Coppola? The Outside? I've never heard of this movie.
Coppola? Yeah, listen to this cast. C. Thomas Howell, Ralph Macchio, Matt Dillon, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Tom Cruise.
It's like a Rat Pack movie. It sounds terrible.
Okay, there are people who absolutely swear by this movie. People I know, friends. It's like one of the great movies. Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we should watch it. I have no idea. But
so here's I guess the big one. Scarface.
You've never seen Scarface?
Too scary.
Too scary. It is quite scary.
Yeah.
Tony fucking Montana, man.
Yeah. Say hello to my little friend.
Oh yeah. Down. That's like the soundtrack.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
Lots of guitars and cocaine.
How about the original National Lampoon's Vacation? Never actually seen it.
They go to Wally World?
Yeah.
How can you miss that as a kid? Surely everyone was watching that at everyone's house.
I think I've probably seen it in the aggregate a number of times, but I don't think I've ever actually sat down and like watched Vacation.
It's brilliant. That's good, but the European one is the one that, like, for us, like, it was that I have seen. European Vacation I've probably seen 50 times because whenever we used to go to my cousin's house, we always used to watch it. It was just like on, like we'd watch it every week. Oh my God, I love that.
That's with him in London trying to get off the roundabout by Big Ben Parliament.
Left. I just can't get left. Hey kids, from Big Ben Parliament. I just can't get left. Brilliant.
The Right Stuff. Never saw that.
Yeah.
The Long movie about astronauts.
Yeah.
Now here's one which we won't pick, but I've never heard of. It's a Nick Rogue movie called Eureka with Gene Hackman.
Ooh. That sounds good, actually.
In this strange enterprise that we're engaged in, we've now done 10 of these. The two directors that I've really been amazed by is Hal Ashby and Nicholas Roeg. They were both kind of unknown to me, and they keep coming up. I guess because this was the period when they were coming up. But
They're great. They're great. Two great filmmakers.
Eureka is a 1983 psychological drama. Gene Hackman, Rutger Hauer, Teresa Russell, Mickey Rourke, and Joe Pesci.
Ah, this sounds awesome. We should do this one.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, I love Hackman. I'll watch anything with Gene Hackman in it.
He's the best.
But it was not that well received at the time. I'm looking on Wikipedia. Budget $11 million, box office $123,000. That's what we call it.
That was the end of Nick's career. When did he make Bad Timing? Did he make Bad Timing after this or before this?
1980.
Very strange. With Art Garfunkel as a detective.
Oh, really? How weird.
Art Garfunkel, and it uses the Colton concert as part of its soundtrack.
That's strange. Have you ever heard there's some on YouTube, there's some footage that's like bootleg audio of Art Garfunkel in the recording studio?
No.
He just sounds so insufferable. He talks about himself in the third person.
Really? Yeah, he was a weirdo, right?
Very, very avid reader. He's read thousands of books. If you look on his website, he has a list of like every book he's read since 1968 or something. Gene Hackman in the movie apparently got an X rating, this Eureka film, Nick Rogue film, for its graphic depictions of violence.
Well, that's why it got no budget.
But then Mark Cousins, whom you introduced me to, the Northern Ireland film critic, put it in his top 10 Sight and Sound poll in 2012.
Eureka?
Yeah.
Oh, we're definitely watching this.
Danny Boyle apparently said it was one of his top 5 films of all time.
Oh, we're definitely watching this. Nick Rogue's amazing. Let's watch that.
Well, hold on, because there are just a couple more here. All right. The Dead Zone.
Oh, yeah. I watched that many times. I was a huge Stephen King fan as a kid. My English teacher used to say, Sam, Stephen King is just awful, awful, awful. Don't read it. I would read all of Stephen King. And I watched that. It's Christopher Walken in that movie.
So you're reading Stephen King and you're reading Flaubert and Balzac, huh?
Balzac came a little later. Dead Zone came out, I was 8. I probably saw it when I was like 10.
Oh my God. I would have committed myself to an institution if I'd watched a movie like that at age 10. Monty Python's The Meaning of Life.
Very good. But we did Brian.
The guy throwing up and then all that, I don't need that.
Yeah. It's a wafer thin.
And then the last one is The Keep.
Oh, yeah.
A Michael Mann movie. I think it's set in World War II.
We're watching Eureka. You're watching Eureka.
You think
There's
so?
no question about it. Definitely.
Not
Nick
Scarface,
Rogue.
but the whole point of this experience is...
The truth is, you should have seen Scarface. I've seen Scarface 5 times. I don't really need to see Scarface again.
No, it's not about you. Not everything is about you.
Well, I know, but it's we're going to watch it and you're going to go, yeah, I get it. I mean, it is awesome. Scarface is awesome.
All right, so we're going to look at this, but also Eureka, it sounds like it's very violent.
I like it. No, violent in the 80s is different. And it's Rogue. It's not going to be... It's Hackman. I've never seen this movie. A Gene Hackman movie that we haven't seen? Let's do that.
And it's set in like the 40s, I think.
It's going to be weird. He's very good. Nick Rogue understood movies. That's the thing. He understood. He knew what he was doing.
All right, it's Eureka. I will see you again soon. We should meet up sometime soon. I guess I'm going to London next week.
I thought you were going to come here. Come over.
Well, I'd like to, but then the weekend after that, I have Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven. I mean, even the name, Gloomhaven.
You should come down.
I would rather shoot myself than get involved in that.
It's like there's like a red-winged banshee or whatever, and if you have this card and you're on level 2,
if you're on this and you have that, then you roll a 6. Then you get to skip 4 turns to your left and commit suicide. Who cares? Who cares? Just hang out. This is the thing I don't understand. You guys want to hang out? Just hang out. Talk to each other. You don't have to pretend that you're fucking warlocks organizing against the evil forces of the world.
Yeah, there's a dragon on top of the mountain. You got to go get his gold.
No, there isn't. Just hang out. How are you? I'm all right. How's your week? How's your wife? How are your kids? What, did you see anything? Yeah, I read a book. I did this. Oh, funny thing happened in the bookshop. This woman. That's the life, not fucking warlocks. Stop it. So ridiculous. I hate it all. I'll see you next week.
All right. So long.
Bye.
Bye. And that's that. So, this is the end of the first 10 years. We're calling this the end of Season 1 of the podcast. We're going to take a little break now and be back soon with Season 2. That'll cover 1983 to 1992, starting with Nicholas Roeg's Eureka. Can't wait. If you subscribe to the podcast, you'll be sure to be notified when those episodes are published. And if you're feeling generous, please give us a nice rating or a review. That'd be nice. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.